What is your background there?
It's just him and his best friends. That was what I was commenting on before.
Is this your BBC fetish?
Yeah, he was saying before EMac, like as you were getting on before, he said that he was trying to figure out how to change his background in Zoom, and he was looking at some pictures, and I was like, yeah, I bet you are.
Yeah, a little disconcerting there.
Yeah.
All right, Stochastic, here we go. It's your old pal EMac coming to you on a 3-game NBA Saturday slate here. It's live before lock. I'm joined by Greg Ehrenberg. We have a little extra late start time here. 3 games. They're going off at 8, 8:30, and 9 o'clock. The middle game, of course, is the ABC featured game of the week. Should be a good one. It is Denver in Los Angeles taking on LeBron and the Lakers. I've heard a lot of people make the joke, but the Joker and the King. It's a fun little play on words there. It's been around every time these guys square off against each other 4 times a season, but not too bad. Greg, how are you doing? You survived the no late swap.
I did, by the way, you're muted on playbacks. Just unmute yourself. No big deal though. It's
Gotcha.
slow, steady, incremental improvements over there. But we've got your camera working now, so all that's well and good. And yeah, now you got yourself unmuted there. Yeah, so it was a little bit of annoying of a slate in terms of Eric and I were right on the injury situations. Like I got to a good amount of Edwards, who was way lower on than projected, which we thought there was a good chance that was going to be the case, considering he was questionable heading into lock. I was overweight to guys like Malik Monk, Domantas Sabonis. But then what ends up happening? My best lineups have Anthony Edwards in them, and Anthony Edwards just leaves at halftime. So, what's funny is, so I'm texting with Eric afterwards, and we're just doing the bullshitting about the slate and running bad and whatever. One of Eric's friends texted him while Eric and I are texting. We're trying to figure out what the hell happened with Anthony Edwards. One of Eric's friends texted him at the same time. He goes, "You're not going to believe what's happening." He's like, Anthony Edwards just rolled into my hospital. I'm delivering his baby. So apparently that's what happened last night. His significant other went into labor, and he left at halftime because his first child was going to be born. And that's what ended up happening with Anthony Edwards yesterday.
There you go. Small world. And that came out, and I hadn't realized until all of a sudden I saw Anthony Edwards not returning. I'm like, oh no, did he hurt himself again? And then saw that it was that. So not that wouldn't have impacted us either way with late swap. Would have been nice to know that was potentially in play, but hat tip there to Eric. I ended up having quite a bit of Malik Monk on FanDuel, and that ended up saving my 35% of Anthony Edwards. So I'm playing all 3 sites tonight, Greg. No pressure.
But I see somebody in chat, by the way, Jordan L saying, fuck Edwards. He should have just sat out if he was expecting. I mean, listen, I'm not a doctor. I've also never given birth before, which I think a lot of people probably aren't aware of either of those facts. But it's not like he knew, like, hey, my wife is going to, her girlfriend, whatever, fiance, whatever the relationship is. It's not like he knew, hey, at the halftime of my game, she's going to be going into labor. It's not like it's that specific when it's going to happen. So, yeah,
it's kind of a no-win situation. I only say that, in semi-jest. I wish I had known about it. But it's personal stuff. We don't have to know. If he would have not played, then people would have been. I mean, remember when the MLB got fit 20 years ago, whenever it was, when they created the paternity list, everybody's like, oh, these guys should work all the time. And it's like, come on. We live in a civilized society here. You can go see the birth of your child and take care of your significant other. That's totally fair.
Yeah, I think people kind of have these unrealistic expectations of athletes because they make so much money. And obviously there's so many people that would just like to be professional NBA players. But the other thing too, it's like people see, it's like, oh my God, like Kyler Murray's struggling. I saw him playing video games last week. It's like, yeah, they don't play football 24/7. There's other stuff that goes on in their life, So it's just kind of the way it goes. But yeah, it was a super shitty beat last night. That was a new one for me, right? There's a lot of ways to win and lose in DFS. And I certainly can't complain overall because I ran on the whole pretty well last week. But yeah, I think that's the first time I've lost because somebody's significant other went into labor in the middle of the game.
Yeah, we've seen baseball players leave midway through the game before as well, including pitchers. So it just that seems like a little bit more realistic. than basketball because, a lot of times you're going to leave the game for various reasons anyway. But yeah, this is interesting. But neither here nor there. We don't have to worry about that tonight. We've got, let's see, we found out that Jaren Jackson Jr. is not going to be playing tonight. Eric Gordon was just ruled out officially with a sore groin. Bradley Beal will be back after missing 5 or 6 games with a hamstring injury. Jamal Murray is still questionable, dealing with a sprained ankle. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope is away from the team for personal reasons. He will not play tonight. DeAndre Ayton out with a sprained hand. So he is out. And then let's see who else.
We just got
out.
A big dump of news, by the way.
Yeah.
So we got from the Grizzlies. So actually, let's just go through just a shit ton of news came in as we were starting this. So I'll go in order here. Nuggets. We'll group all these players together by team. So for the Nuggets, KCP is out. Jamal Murray is a game time decision. So nothing has really changed here with Jamal Murray. He's still officially considered questionable, but KCP now officially out. So we've got that little piece of news from Denver. Bradley Beal will play today. Eric Gordon, you mentioned that. He has been ruled out. Nasir Little is out. That one doesn't matter. And then for the Grizzlies, both John Conchar and Luke Kennard, they are in. So that's a big amount of news that we were waiting for. Wasn't sure when it was going to come. And it just happens that we got a lot of it all at once. But obviously, whether we get word on Jamal Murray being in or out, that's going to be massively impactful for the slate. Jamal Murray still questionable. LeBron James questionable, but I mean, it's so hard to know what to make of these LeBron James questionable tags at this point in time, EMac.
Yeah, I'm leaning towards him probably playing. The Nuggets, this started out as a pick 'em earlier today. It's now, depending on your side, it's still either a Nuggets pick 'em or it's pick 'em or Nuggets by 1. But to me, that would seem that LeBron is probably an indication that he's playing, considering this is the reigning champions, and to have them, essentially at a tie, that would be hard to do without LeBron. Let's see here. So Kennard and Conchar being in. Let's let the projections kind of filter out before we go attack that. But we're going to need to talk about the likes of Jake LaRavia and some other players that are probably going to take some minutes cuts there. And that but once again, we're going to be looking at that game. That game would be the Portland Memphis team. They did play last night. Portland gobsmacked them, ended up winning by 30, crushed them in I can't remember if it was the second or the third quarter, and then just continued to put the hammer down. So it was a really weird game. Portland played 12 players. Memphis played 10. So even though these teams are each essentially missing a full starting lineup, they still have players. So it's not quite down to the games where there's only 7 or 8 people available. Let's see. Let's look at the top here for our spendy options. I mean, the biggest question is small slate. Raw points always are going to win out. We have just 2 players above 50 fantasy points. That's Jokic just over 60 and Davis just over 50. And then you've got LeBron, Durant, Booker. They're all kind of in the mid 40s. Alperen Şengün has not produced over the last few games, but he should come back with a vengeance at some point. He's the other guy over 40. What are you thinking about for your pure spend up options, Greg?
Yeah, so some of this is going to change potentially just because we just got all this news that came in. But I've got lineups run with the news that we had before lock. But yeah, going to need our projections to update before I have some of my more updated exposures. But as of right now, and here's what I think, my most rostered spend up option isn't likely to change. EMac, and I'm seeing people ask like, hey, do we prefer AD? Do we prefer Jokic? Jokic is currently in half my lineups. He's my most rostered spend up option for the entire slate. And here are ways that this could potentially change, though. If Jamal Murray's ruled out, Jokic only looks better in the scenario where Jamal Murray doesn't end up playing. But if we end up seeing Jamal Murray in and LeBron James ruled out, then AD would be my favorite spend up option. But how things are for me right now, I'm anticipating both Jamal Murray and LeBron James playing. If that is the case, then I've got Jokic as my overall most rostered spend up option. Like I say, he's in about half my lineup. So I also have a lot of Jamal Murray. He's in about half my lineup. So really depends, kind of like what price point that you're considering the pay up range. But the way that you had worded that, I'm assuming you mean like those, LeBron, AD, Jokic, those sorts of guys. We could throw, Durant and Booker into that mix as well. But it's Nikola Jokic for me. But it's not like he's a 100% guy or anything like that. So I'll read off my current exposures for the high end guys for you all right now that I have in my lineups. This is before we take into account the most recent news, but I don't really presume this is going to massively overhaul what I'm doing with these guys. But I've Jokic in 50% of my lineups, AD 35%, Durant 25%, Booker 25%.
And that's going to be about right. It's more of a kind of dispersing the talent here, just because any one of them could pop off for 50 fantasy points, and it's a little different than some of our other slates here. A couple key things I wanted to call out here with Jokic is that in these games, so the Nuggets have won the first two games of this series against the Lakers. Murray played in both of them, and even with Murray playing in those, Jokic averaged 36 minutes, almost 27 points, 13 boards, 10 assists, and 2.5 combined blocks and steals. He missed a second double-double. He got one double-double, missed the other one by an assist. So if Murray's out, the theory would be he sees his assist percentage go from mid-30s to just over 40. So that's going to be a big one. Reggie Jackson is going to come into play with Kentavious Caldwell-Pope out, as is Christian Brown. They're both going to look really good if Murray is out, particularly Jackson, who probably will make it into the starting lineup at that point, I would suspect. We've seen sometimes them keep their secondary facilitator off with Jokic just because he's there. But if with KCP out and Murray out, I would think that would probably push Jackson into the starting lineup from that one. But those are some interesting notes there. The other note is with Beal coming back, I did some on-off stuff here. Thank you to Add More Fun's NBA. Wow, we looked at some of that on the show this morning. But when Beal is on the court, he averages about fantasy point per minute. He still gets about that when he's on with Booker and with Durant. When he is on the court versus off the court, Durant actually is the one that loses a little bit of his fantasy projections. Booker stays the same. His mix changes a little bit. He loses some facilitation stuff, but he still is going to be probably what we would call the primary ball handler and still the lead offensive option along with Durant. But Durant loses out on the facilitation when there's both those guys on there. He doesn't get as many secondary passes, but I still think he's, we've seen him with incredibly efficient games, ripping off, 12 of 17 shots and hitting 5 threes. And all of a sudden you're like, how the hell did he get to 45 fantasy points? It didn't seem like he was doing a lot. So those are our top end guys. Anything else you'd like to add to those top end comments?
Yeah, I mean, just talking about the Suns guys, I'm sure people have heard me say many times this year, I very rarely like to roster them at all when all three of them are healthy, but it's a 3-game slate, which really changed that dynamic. There's just only so many choices to get to that you kind of end up on some of these guys by default. But yeah, I certainly prefer AD and Jokic over Kevin Durant and Devin Booker. If you guys are out there only building, like 1 lineup, 2 lineups, 3 lineups, the priority spend up options, it is going to be Jokic and Anthony Davis. And if you didn't see EMac, we do actually have a couple of super chats to get to. And also, if you guys are a Stochastic sub and you have any questions for us in Discord, I'm going to be pulling that up as well so that I could look to see if we get any questions from you guys. And EMac, let people know about the new package that we have over on the site.
Absolutely. So in honor of Eric getting his balls blown off nearly every day, we've created a new package. We have bundled together all of our data, but separated it from the Sims package, because a lot of people have said, hey, I'm really still want to do the data. I have my own processes, my other methodologies of doing this. I don't want to also get the Sims if it's not something I'm going to do. So we made a separate opportunity for everybody to get that. Now, you can get the same deal of $100 off a month, or a similar deal, by repping the Stochastic avatar. That'll take $100 off the monthly price. That'll make it $199.95. So, but that gets you all of the data: boom, bust, player projections, leverage, all the tools, not the lineup generator and not the Sims. So I hate saying the phrase, and I said that this morning, but you asked, we listened. That's usually a loaded question, but no, we took it to heart and said, okay, let's, not everybody's going down the path of the Sims. Let's make sure we can, if people don't want to buy something extra, we shouldn't make them do that. So There we go. Pretty good deal. Additionally, we're sponsored by Sleeper tonight. $500 deposit match. If you go through the link in the YouTube description below us, I or producer Mike will drop that into the YouTube chat there. But put in your first deposit. Make sure it's $500 and they'll match it. Very rare we see those. They're available in about 30 states. And you can also, their interesting thing is the dynamic payout structure, meaning they have double doubles, triple doubles, home runs, total bases, things like that. And they have created a multiplier system. So it's not just a binary, did they cross over the threshold or not, but you can push some of their wagers up or down and then take the under or the over and get a more maximized payout or minimized payout if you're taking less risk. So pretty cool deal. And you can build out lineup cards that will pay out up to 100x. So that's the only site that's doing that now. DK tiers, Greg?
Yes, we got the question from Ace of Spade. One other thing too, because I was just going back and forth a little bit with Obi-Wan in the chat there over on Playback. And as you guys know, we've been doing those Playback shows post-lock Monday through Friday. And so EMac and I aren't going to be doing one tonight, but here's something that I can do that you guys, if you're interested in, I asked to make sure this would be okay for us to do. After the show ends, I could throw one of the games up on screen in Playback. And then if you guys want, you could all hang out and watch the games in there. We keep chat open. So it'll give you guys an outlet to watch the games and chat with each other as well. And we could leave that going all night. So, you know, not totally reasonable for us to all be on the show until like midnight every single night. But what we could do is if people just want to watch the games, we could throw it up there. And then you guys could all watch and chat in there. And every once in a while, if it's late at night, maybe I have a sweat going, I could jump on or something like that. I was thinking that could be a fun thing, is just leave the games on. And then if anybody here, like myself or Eric or yourself, like whoever it might be, if anybody wanted to just jump in and be like, hey guys, I've got a sweat going, jump in Playback. Thought it could be another fun little thing there just to keep the stream going for you guys. So anyway, your question was about DK tiers, which is the question we typically get here from Ace of Spade every single night. So tier one, super easy. Have you looked at tiers at all, EMac? If not, it's
I have.
Okay.
Yep, we definitely have Jokic in tier one, head and shoulders above everybody else. No real question on that one.
Yeah, so tier one, super, super easy. We're looking at Nikola Jokic there. Tier two, another one that I view as fairly even, fairly fair cut. I don't know what the right terminology is that I'm trying to use here. Clear cut. That's it. That's the, I don't know. Do you ever just, it's like, I know there's a turn of phrase I want to use and it's like, I'm getting close, but I can't really pull out the words and that's what it was. Clear cut in tier two. Not quite as clear as tier one, but still pretty easily Devin Booker for me here.
All right. I would kind of lean towards Anthony Simons. I think the game's going to be a little bit closer tonight, and he should have more reason to be on the court. But Booker would be the other one. Tier three.
And look at tier three. Tier three is a very tight one. This is one where we can make a number of different choices we could go to. And this is one that could really be impacted by the injuries as well, EMac, because we've got D'Angelo Russell in here, and we've got LeBron is questionable. So Russell would look way better if LeBron is ruled out. We've got Michael Porter Jr. in here. He would look way better if Jamal Murray is ruled out. So I'm going to go with Fred VanVleet for now. But if LeBron is out, the answer is D'Angelo Russell. And then if Jamal Murray is out, the answer is Michael Porter Jr.
That makes sense. Heading over to tier four, you've got Vince Williams, has a nice projection from us at the moment. We're still waiting for an update there. I suspect he might see a little bit of a down tick with Kennard and Conchar playing tonight. So I'm kind of leaning towards Jalen Green in this one.
And then for me in tier four, I'm going to be going with Vince Williams.
Okay. 5, the very disappointing Sandy Aldama or Jordan Goodwin are the keys. I think I'd still lean with Goodwin. I'd want to see him start, though, just in case they do anything wrong.
As he had such a bizarre game yesterday where, like, first price, he was okay. But oh my God, did we get lucky? Because at no
four blocks.
Exactly. At no point yesterday, I was like, I'm playing Jordan Goodwin. He's going to start at point guard. He's going to play limited minutes and have like 4 blocks and 2 steals wherever he finished with. I'm actually going to pull this up right now to see what his actual final stat line was, but it was something similar to that. It was also a blowout, which also lent itself to kind of odd minutes. Yeah. Goodwin had 4 blocks and 2 steals was what his final stat line was yesterday. So like he ended up being fine, But, we definitely lucked out because I had a ton of Goodwin. I believe he was my second most rostered player behind Mo Bamba, if I remember my exposures correctly recently. Somebody okay. Yeah, never mind. Dan was saying tier 5 should be Reese, but then he corrected himself afterwards. Yeah, I'm going to go with Goodwin in tier 5.
All right. And then tier 6, the last one, pretty clear. It's Duop Reith. Ayton is out again. They still have Moses Brown. They still have Jabari Walker, etc. But Duop Reith should be the starter. If he's not starting, I think it's still okay. I think those guys are going to each get close to 20 minutes across the front court. So I'd be comfortable with that. Lamar Stevens probably would have been the other consideration there. But again, with Conchar and with Kennard playing tonight, there's just more bodies there in Memphis now.
And by the way, one thing to note as well, because Rich just messaged me, projections are going to be up soon. He was pulling double duty. He was working on PGA as well as NBA projections. So he's updating them right now. It'll be up in a couple of minutes for the most recent news for everybody and for myself and EMac as well. But yep, they're going to be up shortly for the KCP being out and the other dump of news that we got right at the top of the show. So don't worry, guys, coming in a few minutes.
Yeah, and we'll definitely hit the best value options on both the sites. That's going to be dependent on what we see in the projections. But in the meantime, I see Phil Senzik has a question. It says, player who should move to Florida and leave our lineups, our life. Is that a troll of me, Phil? Is he saying I'm being banished to Florida? It's a rough life. It's very cold here in Virginia. But I don't know, the punishment of trying to downsize and pack up a house. Yikes. That has no nap today for the old guy. I've been packing all day. If I slow down or stop doing work, I get the death stare from my wife. So here I am drinking coffee at almost 8 o'clock at night. It's been a long day, a lot of boxes, a lot of trips to the garbage, but hopefully Phil's having some fun at my expense there.
All right. So I'm usually pretty good at translating these messages for whatever reason. It's something that I've done so many of these shows. I could really get at the heart of what people want. And even if it isn't what they want, I'm able to spin it to make people think that's what the question's intended purpose was. But I'm interpreting Phil's question like this because it says, player who should move to Florida and leave our lineup. So I'm going to take this as who's a player that's really popular that we're kicking to the curb and we're saying, nah, get out of here. We don't want you in our lineups. That's how I'm looking at it. And
all right.
With that in mind, there are some players from the Grizzlies that are projected for a massive amount of ownership that don't project like super poorly or anything. I'm just underweight to the field because of how popular they are. One of them for me is Vince Williams. He's in 10% of my lineups. He's projected for 35% ownership. I'll be interested to see if this changes significantly at all with our updated projections when that comes in a couple of minutes. But to me, 35% Vince Williams is a very, very steep price to pay. So I'm going to be underweight to a Vince Williams who's $6,600. So it's about as expensive as he's been the entire year. I'll actually double check that right now. Yeah, he's only been more expensive than this on one slate the entire year. He had one slate where he was $7K, but other than that, 6,600 is second most expensive price point of the year, and he's also super popular. So I like being underweight to Vince Williams. EMac. I almost called you by your legal name. We don't want to do that. EMac, what is a player who you think is a little bit overowned that you'd prefer move to Florida instead of getting to your lineups?
No, I think the Vince Williams one is a good call. And I'm just looking to see here what his props are. Particularly his PRA. So his PRA is down to 25.5. Yesterday, I wrote that up as one to take the under on. It was 28.5. He's getting the minutes, the developmental minutes, and Zaire Williams is getting another chance there. He was the number 10 overall pick a couple years ago in the draft, but they're not really producing a lot. And I think now with some of these other players here that I wish I had hit that under earlier when it was at 27.5 this morning, but I didn't like it because it was 28.5 the day before. Now it slipped down a little more. I'd still probably, if pressed, take the under on that, but it's only it's a slightly positive expected value bet at about 2.2%. I would take the the under on it still for the pick'em sites like Sleeper, because I don't think he's going to get there tonight. Yeah, but I agree. He's the one that should leave.
Brick 9227 is saying that he's hanging out in playback because he can't chat in YouTube. Yeah, all you have to do to chat in YouTube is just subscribe to our YouTube channel, which everybody should do. It takes you. Here's what it takes to subscribe to the YouTube channel: like a finger. and you just press the subscribe button, and then you're subscribed. It takes you a half second. It helps support us. It's totally free to do. So we do appreciate it if you guys do it. But yeah, that's all you have to do, Brick, to he says he's subscribed. I don't know. I'm a little confused then. Because it says that he has to subscribe in order to chat. But if you're
make sure you're logged in to your YouTube account. Sometimes if you're on your phone, or you may have been logged out elsewhere. Trey Jamison is going to be inactive tonight. We just got that. Bradley Beal will be starting some sort of minutes limit. My personal thought was I don't think he'll go much more than 28 to 30. He was playing heavy minutes before he got his injury, 35 to 38, but he has only managed to be healthy in 30 of the 59 games this year. So it kind of makes sense that, as you know, the Phoenix Suns are just one game above the play-in tournament line, that they maybe don't run Bradley Beal into the ground now that he is in his age 30 or age 31 season. So I don't really want to play Bradley, but that doesn't, to me, I'm not on if this was more than just a 3-game slate. If this was a 5-game slate, I wouldn't really want to get to Booker or Durant, but I think they're both fine plays tonight, even with him back.
And by the way, mystery solved, because Brick9227, once he said what his actual YouTube name is, I realized what the issue is. The issue is that he was banned from YouTube by Eric, because once I realized what his name was, which also, something related to this, Brick9227. I don't know what your real name is actually, but he said that he was Ashley in the YouTube chat, and then he was also Frank at another point. So I don't remember exactly what it was you had said, Derek, but I remember at some point you'd said something inflammatory, so he booted you. Now it's, once I saw the name Ashley P, I was like, yeah, I remember that was somebody who Eric gave the ban hammer to at one point.
So we have the projections have been updated. So ownership will be next, and then that'll get into the Sims and stuff. But I think we can kind of look at some of the value plays here, especially on FanDuel. So and I'm playing FanDuel tonight, so that should be fun here. So I'm glad we have our information. It looks like, I think the value plays you're going to want to, your decision point here, because you can only play one of them, is going to be Nikola Jokic or Duop Reith. I would probably still try to side with Jokic there in those cases, and knowing that you're giving up at another position. But to me, that would make more sense. Vince Williams, who we just spent a little bit of time saying less than stellar things about, he looks like a good point per dollar play still on FanDuel. Anthony Simons, now we're talking here. He's looking like we have him for 35 minutes in his projection, and he is coming on as a relatively strong play. Jabari Walker has power forward eligibility, and he's a couple $700 cheaper than Reith. So I would be comfortable with that. Again, I think he and Reith are going to get most of those front court minutes, with a little bit of Moses Brown mixed in as well, the center minutes, and then each of those guys play some power forward too. In today's nebulous basketball world, where sometimes Jeremy Grant ends up as the center, but those would be the more point per dollar look at FanDuel. I've kind of, now that I'm playing more on FanDuel, Greg, I'm looking at it from point per dollar rather than like cash and chalk and things like that. It's kind of an interesting look, especially since I'm letting the Sims do all the heavy lifting. I tend to sort by value and make sure those are the players I'm getting maybe a little bit more of than the field.
By the way, our projections are now updated. So if you guys refresh everything or just go check out our projections page, that is now all set and ready to go for the most recent updated news. We are still waiting on a couple pieces that are going to be potentially very significant for the slate. LeBron is questionable, as well as Jamal Murray. So those are the two ones that we're waiting on. And on a 3-game slate, it's obviously massive. It would have been massive on a 13-game slate, but especially on a 3-gamer as well. And Brick9227 has followed up and said that he was going to get backstage tickets to an Aerosmith concert for Eric before Steven got sick. Is Steven Tyler sick? I don't even know if that was a thing, but hey, Brick, it sounds like Eric is missing out then.
Absolutely. We got a question here from Chris Albers. Talking about Ashton Hagens, who I did not even know who that was until last night. We are projecting him for just 14 minutes, 8 fantasy points. So I think you can take him off the table. Delano Banton, a little bit more interesting. But Banton, we saw him with the Toronto Raptors for several seasons. He kind of ended up having a career game last night. Basically put up his stat line he put up in 20 minutes was about equal to what he had done in 34 minutes over the prior 3 games. That's kind of all you need to know there. They sort of caught lightning in a bottle. Similarly, Jake LaRavia did as well, just in that real wonky game last night that was rather lopsided. So I don't really want to go. I don't want to go to Higgins. Banton, if he ends up in a few lineups, I'm not going to sweat that, but I don't think he will. All right. Let me know when you've got your stuff run and we can talk some DK action.
Yep, it is running right now. And yeah, I'm going to double check the NBA injury report, but I'm fairly sure Jemison isn't with the Grizzlies. So let me double check.
He's inactive. Trey Jemison is inactive.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I'm double checking though. Yeah, I think he's with the G League team. We'll see. We'll see.
Which, if that's the case, it's kind of a surprise, isn't it, a little bit that Jaren Jackson is out again? Or how hurt do you think he is? Or is this just protecting one of the last players that's still ambulatory?
By the way, actually, I don't think that is the case. I think Jemison should be good to go. I think he's going to stay on the because I just checked the injury report and he's not listed on he's in our projections, and I just checked the Grizzlies injury report and he's not listed on it. So I think he should be fine.
Why do they make it so hard to get G League information? We should get more in just a minute on the 7:30 injury report, right? Will they clear it up there, or is it
I'd
still
expect them to be fine now.
Okay. I don't know why I'm looking at this myself, but here I am taking a peek. And for those of you that don't know how to find, I'm going to drop this into YouTube chat here. There's the landing page for the NBA injury report. It's very, very helpful to get that. It comes out once an hour, essentially, throughout the whole day. I can't remember what all the rules are now, but teams that are on back-to-backs or obviously on the West Coast have a little different posting time for these things, but that's where they are. What are you doing with Royce O'Neal with Beal playing tonight? Let's see where we have Beal. I said I thought he would play about 28 minutes. We haven't projected for 27 and a half. Sometimes the old guy knows what he's talking about or gets lucky. I still think Royce O'Neal is okay. He's not great because remember that Phoenix picked up a whole bunch of secondary players or tertiary players in those trades. So while there's nobody awesome on their bench, they do have a deeper rotation or possibilities now. So it doesn't necessarily have to be O'Neal. And that's where you end up with the likes of, who is it? Josh Okogie, potentially getting minutes, Bol potentially getting minutes. Thaddeus Young is lurking there. I don't think anything is totally solidified for O'Neal, but I do think he's ahead of all of them in the rotation. We have him projected for 25 and a half minutes. That is O'Neal. That is the 6th most on the team. So I think he's okay. Just he's going to get his minutes off the bench.
And yeah, I'm rerunning everything right now. We've got some other questions we can get to as well, EMac. And as far as Discord goes, there's also some Discord questions in here. First from Master PJ. He wants to know, who's the Rain Man play of the night? And then also, why do we need to make it rain tonight? Who do we need to make it rain? My bad. So who do we need to make it? Well, aren't these kind of the same questions? Who's the Rain Man play? And then also, who do we need to make it rain? So
well, Sean Kemp was the Rain Man.
That's true.
So
that's true. Who do you consider the Rain Man play of the day, EMac?
Oh, who's probably the best dunker that's out there, maybe? The most intellectually savvy? I don't know. Let's go. What color is money? Money is green. We're going to go with Jalen Green as the rainmaker of the night.
By the way, we got the Blazers starting lineup. Nothing unexpected. Simons, Murray, Kamara, Grant, and Reith. Let me think. Who am I going to pick to make it rain? So as things stand right now, if Jamal Murray ends up playing, I think he's going to go way under owned on the slate. I have him right now in a little bit more than half of my lineups. He's listed as questionable. We only have him projected for a 22% ownership. So with that being the case, if Jamal Murray is going to head into this slate being questionable, I think he could be sub 20% on a 3-game slate. That's somebody I think you should be looking at for upsides. Who's going to make it rain? I'm going to go with Jamal Murray there, EMac.
All right. Let me know when you have your stuff running. We'll talk some DK values and DK core plays to get those last 2 super chats handled.
And we've also got some more questions to answer from the Discord here. This one is coming to us from IC50. IC50 saying, who benefits the most if Jamal Murray out after Jokic? So in this scenario where Jamal Murray doesn't end up playing, we already like Jokic. We know we're going to be getting to him. What else should we be looking at, EMac? Well, first of all, Reggie Jackson going to move into the starting lineup. What's the price point on Reggie? Let's see. Reggie Jackson is 5,900. That's playable, but he's kind of already priced up for Jamal Murray potentially being out. So it's not like I would be jamming in a $5,900 Reggie Jackson. Next most player that I think I'd be getting to the most behind Jokic would probably end up being, and also keep in mind there is no more KCP either. Probably Michael Porter Jr. How about for yourself, Matt? And this is, by the way, this is just not including the KCP injuries. Just if Jamal Murray is ruled out and on top of what we already know.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. The biggest beneficiary directly would be Reggie Jackson. Tertiary would be Christian Braun. And then Michael Porter would definitely get a few more shot attempts, or it would solidify him to get, in my opinion, close to 20 field goal attempts as a reasonable baseline. That puts him in line for a double-double here, which is, I think he had double-doubles in both his games. I don't remember that for sure. Came close to it in the 2 games against LeBron and Davis already this year.
The next question we have here is coming to us from Gua. Gua is asking us, for a single entry on FanDuel, would we rather play Duop Reith or Jokic in the center spot? This is a really interesting question because Reith is clearly one of the best points per dollar options on the entire slate. What's great about DraftKings is you can play both of them, but we can't really do that over on FanDuel. So between Duop Reith and Jokic, let me see. When do these games? Let me just remember the start times of the games. So, boy, it's a tough one. Because as of right now, the answer would be Duop Reith. But then if Jamal Murray's out, you want the answer to be Jokic. But it seems fairly likely we're not going to know the status of Jamal Murray until after the slate locks. I'm going to answer Duop Reith, though, because I do think Jamal Murray is more likely to play than not. But do you feel differently about that, EMac?
No, I would agree. And I'm ending up. I'm going
super chats there, EMac. Those are all the questions we have from Discord.
Yeah. Okay. So the super chats that we have that are queued up here that we did not answer are favorite plays at each position, and also the value plays on DK, the top 4 value plays.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and what was the first one?
Fave at each position.
Favorite or fade?
Favorite.
Okay.
I was trying to fave, like whatevs.
Got you. I feel like, by the way, my grandma is here visiting this weekend.
Dude, your grandma's got some riz.
Dude, it is impossible because she can't hear anything. So you have a conversation with her, and this is how you must have felt just asking me that question just now. You ask her a question, she kind of like guesses what you might ask her, and she just answers something totally unrelated. So this morning, for instance, she's standing over the couch and just looking at it. And there was like a bunch of shit on the couch as she was standing over. So I said, do you want me to clear space so you could sit on the couch? And she says, I brought my jacket with me. I'm like, oh, all right. And then my mom was also here because here's what happened. So my grandma lives in New Jersey. My parents live in Florida now. And so my mom flew up to New Jersey so that she could pick up my grandma and then bring her back to Florida with her because she can't fly by herself. And my mom was just over it. She's yelling at my grandma the entire time. I felt bad for her because my mom, just from spending all this time with her, was just fed up with her mom. She was just like, don't want to deal with this anymore. But at the same time, too, like my mom's yelling at her for not being able to hear. I'm like, what is she supposed to do? She just can't hear. There's nothing she could do to improve that. She's like 93 years old. She doesn't hear anymore. It happens. Same thing. Then my mom's like, my mom says to my grandma, Mom, you've told me that story 6 fucking times. I don't want to hear it anymore. Tell Greg the story. He probably hasn't heard it as many times as me. So like, my mom was so over my grandma being here at the time that they were ready to leave.
All right. What kind of edible are you giving your mom tonight?
I mean, they're gone. They're they're
Oh,
down in Florida
oh,
now. That was also why, by the way, that was why I had Matt fill in for me on the strategy show this morning because I was hanging out with my mom and my grandma.
gotcha. Gotcha. All righty. All righty. So back to DK. So I'm going to build out my DK lineups here. So let's go to the stochastic sims, which, by the way, have been outstanding for me. I won the mini max earlier this week.
I heard that you won that. Did you win by a lot?
On a mere 25 lineups.
Look at you.
And I was fast asleep when it happened, and it turns out I ended up topping one of our subscribers. He was breaking it down that somebody missed a field goal and my guy got the rebound or something at the end of the game. So it was fun. It was fun to wake up and see that.
I've run lucky to have a bunch of those this year where it's like end of the game situation and it bounces my way. And there's such a big difference between like first and like third in some of those tournaments. But yeah, congrats to EMac. Won the mini. What day was that you ended up winning?
Maybe it was Monday or Tuesday, I think.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, that's right. Tuesday would make sense because I think it was the day after I won the $4.
Wow.
We're going back to back. You and me hanging out, EMac.
Indeed. All right. So I'm kicking off and this is the fun part. And we shared how quickly this works on the show earlier today when I was doing the screen share that the Sims are pretty efficient at doing things. The key things I have learned is you want to prep your templates to get ready for upload, because that is the one sticky point here. And you want to make sure you leave yourself a little bit of time to look at to do ROI boosts. Greg was asking me earlier if I had any questions as I'm becoming more and more familiar with utilizing these. And I said, no, I'm actually feeling pretty confident. Still have a lot to learn, but it can be a little daunting for your first 5 or 6 days. But after you learn where all the little filters are, it's pretty slick.
By the way, we didn't answer the question from before, which was about our favorite options at each position. So let's go ahead and talk about that. The players that we're getting the most exposure to, and why did my exposure to LeBron go up by so much? Huh. Did I do something weird? LeBron. I'm getting to so much LeBron now that I'm just trying to make sure I didn't fuck something up because it seems weird the amount of him that I have. All right. I guess I'm just playing a good amount of LeBron James anyway. EMac. So for the question, our favorite players at each position, I'm going to start at point guard here. And at point guard, my most rostered player that is currently Jordan Goodwin. At shooting guard, my most rostered player is currently Anthony Simons. At small forward, it is currently LeBron James. Well, I'm going to rerun that because I think it's a little weird the amount of LeBron that I'm getting to. At power forward, that is currently Jabari Walker. And then at center, it is a Duop Reith for me.
So I ended up with Goodwin, Reith, and Jokic are my centers. We had someone ask exposure to Lamar Stevens. He is popping at 73% right now for me. The field is at about 53%. I'm okay with that. I think because he can, in a pinch, he can play center. He already has power forward eligibility there. We've seen him in times in his career really be an effective 3-and-D wing guy as well. He has access to a variety of positions on the court. And without having to deal with Ayton tonight, I think he is going to be better served on these. And even coming off the bench, I'm still comfortable with that large percentage there. I have 28% of LeBron for what it's worth.
Yeah, I'm rerunning everything. I think I fucked something up somewhere.
All right. So while you're doing that, so TL says, hey, among small forwards, here, who do we like or we'll rank them? So Zaire Williams, Dylan Brooks, Cam Whitmore, Whitmore or Kamara. I would go Brooks, Kamara, Zaire Williams, and then Whitmore last would be the way I would do it.
By the way, for the people in chat who are asking the questions about Jemison, the starting lineup for the Grizzlies is Lamar Stevens at center, but that doesn't necessarily mean that Jemison isn't playing. I do think Jemison is going to be playing today. He's not listed on the injury report, so he should be fine. Was there an update that?
No, the only thing I saw is on your old site where that says he's listed as inactive.
Yeah, there are conflicting reports. So it's weird because there are people who are saying he's inactive today, but if you go to their official injury report, he's not listed. Let me ask Rich.
I'm looking at the old Twitter sphere here, Jemison. Make sure I spell that correctly.
Yeah.
Hey, Rich Green 4 sent to Underdog at NBA. Any news on Trey Jemison?
And all right, so I'm also looking on Twitter for Jemison, and yeah, a lot of people are asking about him and tweeting at Bucks beat reporters, but there's been no. It's like I said, it's very bizarre because he's been starting for them. Started last game. He's not listed as starter today, and not listed on the injury report either. So it depends on his contract situation since he was a G League player. But they haven't said anything about it because this is also part of the issue with the Grizzlies just being absolute dog shit at reporting injuries and other kind of news. They used to do this way back in the day as well when it would be like Mike Conley would be questionable to play or something like that. And he would be out for like 6 to 8 weeks and they would just list him as questionable every single time. And yeah, I know that people are noticing Basketball Monster does have him listed as inactive, which I know that's what EMac is looking at. I use that for news all the time as well. But I can't find any actual official source that says he's inactive.
No, and if you look and the search on Twitter doesn't really give you any news except for a few people, like Greg mentioned, asking questions over the last 25 minutes. So I'm taking him out of my player pool because
here's the easy way to approach it. Obviously, is don't play Jemison, but at the same time too, it does impact the minutes projection for Lamar Stevens. So that's something that we have to consider here for sure.
My thought is he's not going to play tonight because he got the start. He's the last couple times that Jaren Jackson has been out, Jemison has gotten the start when he's been up from the G League. I'm assuming he's on a 2-way contract because then they have to worry about the number of days he's active. All right.
By the way, so Rich just updated projections and took Jemison out, by the way.
Okay. I think that's the savvy play.
So if you guys do want to rerun everything, we took Jemison out of our projections and zeroed him out. As a consequence of that, Lamar Stevens looks way better. And this is a tricky, stupid situation because if Lamar Stevens is only going to be played, Lamar Stevens, we know he's starting, but if he's only going to be playing, like 28 minutes or something like that, he's not all that desirable. But if Jemison's out and they're just limited in the front court because Jaren Jackson Jr. is also out, then you could start to look at Stevens as somebody who might have to play like 34 minutes or something along those lines. And that is why we currently have him projected for as one of the top value plays on the entire slate. But let's get back to these super chats.
Master PJ says, thanks for rubbing it in, EMac. It was me that you stole the victory from. I do like the name Master PJ. That's pretty funny.
We've got a bunch of super chats here, by the way, EMac.
I thought I've gotten them.
I don't think so.
What are
top 4 value plays on DK?
Yes. That's what we've been trying to answer.
Well, no, we went position by you asked.
Yeah,
me,
that's the only one we haven't answered yet. Is that one?
Yeah, so
we've answered all the rest because I was waiting for everything to update.
So one of them now is going to be Lamar Stevens, assuming that Jemison is out. So Lamar Stevens, one of them. Some of this also is going to, well, all right, we'll just answer with for now and
Yeah,
not
Stevens is
necessarily hitting
one.
on the
Reed, yeah,
potential.
Stevens is one. Reed is two. Jordan Goodwin is three.
As far as guys who are like cheap that I actually want to get to, I would only say Lamar Stevens and Duop Reef. If we're talking about like sub 5K guys, there isn't anybody else who like
Yeah,
I'm desiring to get a ton of exposure. I mean, like Zaire Williams to an extent, but also
that's fair.
nothing kind of crazy. But all the Memphis guys do look slightly better now that there's one player taken out of the rotation.
All right, we have 10 minutes until lock. Let's see. The Houston game is the late game. Are you setting up anything to get Jamal Murray in some of your lineups?
Well, I have a good amount of exposure to Jokic right now, and I already have exposure to Jamal Murray as well. I feel pretty good that Murray's going to end up playing. It's not going to be all that hard for me to adjust my lineups and make late swaps should he be ruled out. Also, I don't think we answered this either. B asked us for our favorite value plays on FanDuel.
We did. We went through that. It was due up Reef, where you have to have the decision point on Jokic. I said
No. For
Jabari
favorite
Walker
value
was.
plays on FanDuel?
Yeah, we talked about that before. I was hitting them all, my friend. I was getting them all. But anyway, it was due up Reith or Jokic. If you're not going to go with Reith, then I think you can go with Jabari Walker. Definitely Lamar Stevens is in that mix now, and you can kind of roll the dice with Zaire Williams.
No, that was for DraftKings value.
No, I know. I'm saying the same thing for.
Oh, gotcha.
But we
I
talked
would
about
add.
this about 20
I like
minutes
Luke
ago.
Kennard a ton as a value play on FanDuel.
We'll see what I'm getting since I'm running my FanDuel lineups now.
Yeah. Luke Kennard is $4,500 on FanDuel with shooting guard and small forward eligibility. I think he looks pretty good on FanDuel. And then we also had Brandon Wagner asked us what we're doing with Royce O'Neal with Beal playing today. I do not have Royce O'Neal exposure.
No, and we talked about that as well. He is their sixth most projected minutes, about 25. He seems to now have the edge over Josh Okogie and the cast of people that were brought in at the trade deadline.
What did you end up with because this was a question from Phil Senzig. What is the exposure you are getting to Lamar Stevens now that he is starting? Lamar Stevens is, I believe, my most rostered player now.
He is on 77% of my teams. He is the most rostered player.
He is on 70% of my lineup. So yeah, like Lamar Stevens, pretty good amount. And then we had a TL ask us between Zaire Williams, Dylan Brooks, Cam Whitmore, and Kamara.
We answered that one as well.
I didn't answer it though.
I did. Go ahead.
I didn't. All right. So Williams, Brooks, Whitmore.
He's the DJ. I'm the rapper.
That's going to be Zaire Williams for me. Zaire Williams. Is that your answer as well? By the way, Jamal Murray's in.
Oh.
You all right there, Mike? Gotcha. All right. So we've got that news updated. So all we're waiting on is LeBron James, and I feel pretty good that LeBron is going to end up playing. We'll see if that ends up changing. But getting back into Discord, we got Clyde, who was also just saying that he thinks it looks like Jemison won't play. And then Stokes is asking us for our thoughts on Fred Van Vliet. He says he's getting to a lot of them, but he hates it. Fred Van Vliet, I think I was getting to a lot of him before, and that changed. My lineups changed so much with Stevens starting and Jemison getting taken out of our projections. I only have 10% of Van Vliet now. He looks super overowned to me. We've got Van Vliet project for 33% ownership. Like I said, I had a little bit more of him before, but my line's to become a little bit more stars and scrubsy now. But yeah, I'm well underweight to the field on Fred Van Vliet. 10% of my lineups, who's projected to be in a third of the field's lineups.
Yeah, that's too much for Van Vliet.
And then we've got Clyde asks, what's the plan on Jamal Murray? He's in now, so we don't really have to make a plan. By the way, there are also kids at my house. My brother and my sister-in-law are babysitting this week, and I've just got kids running around my house screaming right now.
So you're not in your happy place right now, Greg?
That's fine. It's whatever. I'm going to be like very stoned after this, and that will help me deal with it. But I'm not. I mean, you don't have kids. Mike doesn't have kids. I mean, you can see if Mike puts himself up on screen, you get a sense that like that is a man who doesn't have kids just based on what his background is right now. People can see what Mike has going on right there. But yeah, it's not necessarily my favorite thing in the world dealing with kids. I'll survive though.
No, but we do have to give a shout out to Jennifer Lawrence, as I learned. Not that Jennifer Lawrence, but the other Jennifer Lawrence. Hopefully she's watching today. One of them is watching.
We've also got have you seen EMac that sports betting has gone live in North Carolina?
That is good because when I drive from Virginia, I can now still place wagers in North Carolina. Before I couldn't. Once I got south of Richmond, it was all over. So I'm happy about that when I drive to Florida again.
Well, also, the reason that it's relevant is if you guys want to sign up for any of the sports books that are down in North Carolina, like BetMGM, for instance, they got all these great deals. Like you sign up at BetMGM, you bet $5, you can get $150 in bonus bets when you pre-register. We've got links for all of that below. So if you're somebody who lives in North Carolina and you're getting ready for sports betting, because I believe it's kind of weird how they did it. It's like it officially went legal March 1st, but it doesn't actually go live until next week. But you're allowed to pre-register this week. We've got links for all the sports books down below in the description box over in North Carolina if you guys do want to sign up. And wanted to make sure that we point that out before we go. By the way, do you have all of your lineups all set and ready to go, EMac?
I've got DK in. I'm just quickly looking here at FanDuel. I have a very healthy amount of Duop Reith, not as much Jokic as I thought. I've only got 30% of Jokic, but I'm going to change that to 45. But otherwise, I'm good to go here.
Yeah, Dan06712 says he doesn't feel good about having so much Lamar Stevens. You know who also doesn't feel great about having so much Lamar Stevens? Me. But it's a 3-game slate, and it's really hard to get away from him. And that's kind of how it goes with a lot of these Memphis players. Here's the reason why, though. There are so many good pay up options that we have on the slate. Like, we do have guys like we have LeBron James, we have Nikola Jokic, we have Anthony Davis, we have, Devin Booker and Kevin Durant. And to get up to these guys, you're going to have to save salary somewhere. And you talk about this a good amount, EMac, and I think it's a pretty good point you bring up, that how much the raw fantasy points matter on the 3-game slates. And there aren't that many great guys to roster in the mid-range. And if you sort by the value column on our projections, like the difference just in terms of like players, salary-based expectations and their fantasy points, you'll see like Nikola Jokic is a player who we rate out as like one of the best values on the slate tonight. But to get to him, you have to play some kind of lower-end, shittier guys. Don't look at Lamar Stevens being a value option on like a 12-game slate where it's like, oh, I need to get like 30 fantasy points out of Lamar Stevens. The viability of Lamar Stevens is because of the studs that we have to get to. And you have to make space for them in some kind of way. If Lamar Stevens scores 20 fantasy points tonight, he is live to still be in the optimal lineup. And there just aren't that many great cheap guys that we can feel great about the ceilings of. So Lamar Stevens, he's in a bunch of my lineups. I'm okay with it. I also don't feel terrific about having Lamar Stevens in 3/4 of my lineups, but it is what it is.
All right. Shout out to all the people watching. Let's hit that like button. See if we can get us where we close to 300 yet. I know we have like 1,700 people watching. So about 1,000 of you hit that like button. That would be absolutely awesome. We are 60 seconds away from lock. Remember, we have most of the news that we need. The games lock at 8, 8:30, and 9 o'clock tonight. Very condensed slate. The middle game is Phoenix and Denver. They are going to be the ABC game of the week. Greg is going to turn on one of the games. So for those of you that want to check out that Memphis-Portland game, he'll flip that one over there on playback. So you guys can slide on in there and watch that, and we'll probably be popping in. I'm going to have some leftover Thai food for dinner, and then I'm going to pack some more boxes tonight. I can't wait, Greg.
Yeah, and I'm actually going to put that on playback right now. So if you guys want to go over to playback and just hang out and chat, watch the games tonight, yeah, I'll have that up in playback, doing that right now. So you guys should see that game loading soon. Obviously, the game hasn't started yet. It's not from the future. We can't just put on the 2nd quarter of the game or anything because it hasn't happened yet. But players are warming up, and when the game tips off, it'll be here on screen. So I don't really see any downside to this. If people watch, cool. If people don't watch, that's also fine. But I think this is a good way for more people to head on over to playback. You could chat about stuff during the game. And then, yeah, who knows? There could be a point in time where myself, EMac, Eric, whoever might end up just popping in. But yeah, we'll start leaving these games on throughout the night for people to have an outlet to watch some of the games and hang out with the community.
That sounds good. Well, good luck on your, I'm assuming, gummies tonight, or perhaps a nice herbal tea. Are you going
needles, whatever it takes for me to get away from the kids?
Or are you going old school outside with the big old bong?
That's also a possibility.
Good times. I see producer Mike is all good to go. But for those of you that grew up in agricultural land, you know, making the apples turning into bongs, that was always fun. It felt a little more sophisticated.
LeBron is in, by the way.
Yeah. LeBron is in. Yeah, as expected.
LeBron is in. AD is in. So cool. We've got everything set, other than the fact that me just realizing that I'm unsure if I click the upload button on my lineups. I'm a mess today.
Well, while you're sorting that out,
I'm good. It's all set. By the way, we're at lock. The show's over.
We are at lock. So I want to remind everybody, we got Josh and Laffy tomorrow at 10 a.m. doing the strategy show for NBA. We have likely a 5 o'clock live before lock. If it follows suit like it did last week, they're going to start the main slates with the 6 o'clock games. There's always a chance someone strays out of line there between DraftKings or FanDuel, but that seems to be what's happening. So you have the show for that. And of course, NASCAR is tomorrow. So we've got projections for that. We also have the Sims for NASCAR. We talked about the data only package and how you can get $100 off each month as long as you're repping the stochastic avatar out there on your DFS sites of choice. We of course have the lineup generator bundle that puts them all together for one monthly price of I think $74.95, but that's all the different ones for a month. And of course, baseball is only a couple weeks away here. It'll be in full swing, if you will, in about 3 weeks. So that will be fun, getting another sport in the mix. But with that, you can follow Greg on Twitter at Ehrenberg DFS. I am at EMac DFS. And of course, it is stochastic_COM. With that, gamers, good luck.
All right.